want to welcome everybody to the November 7th Des Moines City Council meeting. We are about to start, but prior to our starting this evening, we're going to have a quick word from our own council member, Bob Maheffey. For those who would like to stand with us, we would ask you to do that at this time.
I'm going to take a short prayer, which I think is appropriate, from the Meditations for Meetings. And if you'll join with me then. Dear God, we acknowledge our shortcomings and failures. Give us the courage to embrace crisis as an opportunity for growth and understanding. Give us faith to make difficult decisions. Thank you for the strength to move forward. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I'll ask the clerk to take roll, please.
Cownie.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Griess. Maheffey.
Here.
Hensley.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and or as amended. It's been moved. Anybody have any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Item passes. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda, which tonight are items 3 through 38. Item 5, Councilmember Moore and I vote no. Item 7A, Councilmember Hensley wishes to speak. I was going to pull item 8. I have withdrawn that request. My questions have been answered. Item 13E, Councilmember Moore wishes to speak. And item 35C and 35F, Councilmember Moore wishes to speak.
Mayor, I'd like to withdraw my request to speak on 13E.
Okay. 13E has been withdrawn. So we have 7A and 35C and 35F are still on to be pulled for further discussion. Anything else anybody from the audience might have? Any other items? Seeing none, could we have a motion for the balance?
Move.
It's been moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The items pass. Let's go directly to item 7A, which is it's a public improvement ordering construction of the Southern Meadows Phase 2 asbestos removal, receiving bids 11/22/11 and setting a date of hearing of 12/5/11. Construction estimate is $47,500. Council communication number 11-683, and A under that is communication from the city manager regarding changes in the Iowa Finance Authority's IFA Qualified Allocation Plan, QAP, for the 2012 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Round. Mrs. Hensley.
I actually want to talk on the communication to Iowa Finance Authority, and we should have all received a letter, a draft of a document that I think the city manager has given us. I just want to be real sensitive to this. The elimination of points for local government support, as you know, that's kind of gone back and forth over the years. One year you have to have a letter of support from the city. Next year you don't have to have a letter. I think I have an understanding as to why they're eliminating that because of issues in other communities. But if there's some other way that we could make sure that the city has a role to play without actually getting the letter of support because of history there, I think we should take that into account and see if we can work with them to get that incorporated. So, and I think it's very important that we have staff at the hearing, staff or somebody representing the city at the hearing to make the case on this.
Mrs. Hensley, council members, I appreciate those comments. I did have a chance to visit with Mayor Cownie, and he indicated he may be willing to attend that hearing. It'd be terrific if he could and make those points. But just to be clear about your comment about the local government, do you suggest amendments in what's written here, or does this adequately capture what you're?
I believe, especially on the first item there, that it's going to be difficult to get them to agree. I can't speak for them, but just based upon what's transpired, that we've got to have some mechanism that allows the city of Des Moines to have input.
Right. Well,
so, you know, just what would be some of the options?
Do you want to have a discussion maybe later to clarify this a little bit better?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Perfect. So
But
I'll,
as far as the other
They're
paragraphs, we're
fine.
okay with those?
yes,
Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll move.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make any comment regarding that discussion? Seeing none?
Seven yes.
All right, that takes us to item 35C. 35C is, these are bids from the following, and C is TNT Landscaping. John Church is the owner, for plant materials for installation at various city park locations for the use by the Park and Recreation Department, $58,725. There were 13 bids mailed and 3 received. Mr. Moore.
Mayor, a week or two ago, well, to preface this, TNT Landscaping is currently working on a tree planting contract, a spring and fall contract for Public Works. And a week or two ago, I observed one of their crews planting trees down here in the East Village. I pulled up across the street to see how they're planting the trees. They were doing numerous things that weren't permitted by spec. They were not following our specs. Some of them are really bad things not to be following. I called David Yon immediately to have him check on it, and he found about 5 bullet points that they weren't following on tree planting specs. What I'm going to do at this point is I think that I don't think it's proper to be giving another contract to them if they can't follow the specs from last spring that they were given, and the specs are the same ones. And I believe that we should go to the next highest bidder. The difference is $839 on about a $59,000 bid. Bill, have you had a chance to check this?
Mayor, County, members of the council, Bill Stowe, Public Works. Mr. Moore, yes, I have had an opportunity to take a look at the facts surrounding this one. As the mayor indicated in his reading, the contract before you really is a Parks and Recs contract. It's not a Public Works contract. But as Mr. Moore indicated in his comments, Public Works currently does have a contract with TNT Landscaping. The particular infraction that the municipal arborist found after Mr. Moore alerted him to the need for an inspection involved the backfilling work that was being performed in an East Village planting. Typically, backfilling, obviously, a very important part of how the planting sequence works. In this situation, Mr. Yon, the municipal arborist who you all met this morning during his presentation, went out and took a look at this and found that they were not, in fact, in conformity with the planning specifications. Talked with the owner, Mr. Church. Mr. Church assured them that that would not happen in the future. The long and short of it is certainly I recognize that, first of all, this is a parks contract, not a Public Works contract, but the criteria of responsive, responsible bidder are modifiers with low bid. It's not, as you all know, simply the cheapest bid that comes your way, but the bidder must be both responsive and responsible. This was certainly a situation in which their performance under this planting was not responsive under our specifications. So from our vantage, it's certainly a serious issue.
I'm going to move that we go with the next highest bidder.
Wait a minute. Can I just, one of my concerns is I think that we need to refer it back to the city manager's office and look at this, because I don't know who the next lowest bidder is. I don't have a clue.
It's Timber Pine.
I just think that we're not going through the process that we need to go through if we just make that decision without having referred it back and getting input. I mean, Bill indicate, I don't disagree that there were potential problems there, but it's not even his contract, and we've not gone through the due diligence that I think that we would probably go through to make sure everything's in order. And if there's not a time issue.
There is a time issue. It's a fall planting issue.
Did you want to add to it, Don? Was he motioning?
Mayor, Cownie, and members of the City Council, Don Tripp, Park and Recreation Director. This is a planting contract for this fall. The period of time, as I review it here, is the end of November, or planting could happen in the spring. There is a set of specifications for the planting that has been reviewed with David Yan, and it requires the contractor to plant according to those specifications. We've used this contractor before. For the most part, in working with them, we've been satisfied with their performance. There have been issues, but nothing that is so egregious that we'd recommend not offering this contract.
So I guess, Don, my question would be then, if we were to take the 2 weeks to refer it back and then have it come back, and, you know, maybe the recommendation is that it's this next company. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think that'd be fine from our schedule standpoint. It probably puts us out of the planting window for this fall, but probably would move it to spring. That's okay.
Well, I wasn't aware of the concerns about this contractor. Maybe I should have been, but at this point, going to the next low bidder may be perfectly appropriate. I just don't know. I can't give you good advice on it without a delay and giving me a chance to go back and look at it, which is what I would suggest on this, under the circumstances. If you really want to go with the next low bidder, and you've heard some testimony here that might be appropriate, then rather than just do it tonight, it would seem to me better to give us a chance to review it, particularly me, and look at the contracts and see what the issues are, and then give you a recommendation next time.
Could I ask our city attorney, are there any legal issues or comments that you'd like to make on this, sir?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I would agree with the city manager that procedurally it would be appropriate for the council first to make a determination that the low bidder in this particular case is not responsive or responsible, one or the other or both, prior to making an award to the next lowest bidder. And in that circumstance, I would submit that the council probably would benefit from additional analysis and some type of written report that details the non-responsiveness, non-responsibility of the particular low bidder involved.
I'll withdraw my motion, and the motion now will be to refer it back to the manager for a report in 2 weeks.
This will put it into the spring planting.
Okay. Thank you.
Seven yes.
Next item is 35F, which is Insight Public Sector, Keith Lamneck, President, for a 3-year renewal for maintenance and support services for existing Internet monitoring and filtering software, WebSense, per the U.S. Communities contract for use by the IT Department, $45,320. Mr. Moore.
Well, my concern on this is, I understand the filtering. I'd just like to know, is there any kind of spyware involved in this to where we're able to monitor our, you know, if somebody clicks something in on their computer, it's automatically going to be notifying IT. I think if we're going to have that, our employees need to know that.
Mr. Moore, I'll let Mr. Newman respond more specifically, but as to the personnel implications, one of the challenges that all organizations have these days with IT is the use of the city computer system for Internet usage. And although we might want to think otherwise, it is an issue in terms of how our own employees utilize that system. These systems are relatively commonplace, and yes, we do monitor it, and yes, employees are aware that their use of the city's email system and Internet system is a matter of public use and therefore of public record. If they're not aware, they should be aware of it. So these
that's the answer I needed. I just want to be sure that our employees were aware that they are being monitored. I don't think they all are aware of it.
I should let John comment further because he knows more about it than I do. So,
Mayor, City Council, John Newman, City IT Department. I believe the employees do know that they're being monitored. What we don't do is take a daily, monthly, weekly look at everybody's usage. It's on a request basis from department managers that we do that. Every website that's accessed by every employee is in a log file that's maintained in the city IT department, of which we are the only ones that have access to that information. But I believe as part of the hiring process, every employee is informed, may even sign a statement that indicates proper email, internet usage.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll move 35F.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the consent agenda. It takes us to item 39, which is the first consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 118 of the Municipal Code, delegating authority to the treasurer of the Des Moines Water Works to correct sewer, solid waste, and/or stormwater liens and assessment schedules. Council Communication Number 11-688. A is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the engineering department and requires 6 votes. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
I'll move.
Seven yes.
Item 40 is from Councilmember Brian Meyer to speak regarding traffic on Southeast 14th Street in Hartford as a result of the tournaments at the County Soccer Complex. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the result of a meeting with the Coalition of Southside Neighborhood Associations I had last week. Concern that's been voiced before of a essentially a bottleneck, traffic jam, trying to get out of the Hartford, out from Hartford on the Southeast 14th Street or continuing on Hartford after County Soccer Complex or after soccer tournaments at the complex, and it's an increasing problem, and I guess we're just looking for a recommendation on how to manage it, do a better job. Can we change lights at certain times? Can we have a requirement that people hire off-duty police officers to motion people through, or on-duty police officers? And so that's the real issue, is it just this huge log jam for hours and hours, or not hours, but a very long time on as people come out. Carol or Jim, do you want to address this? I know I have people here from the meeting, and Carol just walked in, so.
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, Jim Bollard, 4007 Southeast 26th Street, chairman of Cessna and president of Easter Lake Area Neighborhood Association. Mayor, as you remember, you visited the Cessna meeting in April, and we discussed this, and our hope was that somebody from city staff could possibly sit at the corner of Southeast 14th and Hartford. I did not receive any feedback, so I don't know if that was something they were able to do or not. But the most recent tournament that was in September, we had reports that people were sitting in traffic from the complex to East 14th for 20 to 30 minutes to get through there, which we've got such a nice complex that people have been there and had a good experience. It's not really a good feeling for us in the neighborhoods to say they're going to have a bad experience on the way out after they'd had such a good experience during the tournament. So our hope would be, if we weren't able to have somebody monitor that at the very least at one of the next large tournaments, we have somebody from city staff monitor it, or if possible, work with tournament organizers to hire off-duty officers or whatever to help monitor the corner, provide traffic flow or whatever, but something so we can do so we can improve the experience of the visitors as they enter and leave the complex.
We did pass that item on, and I would suggest with your appearance here tonight, obviously we haven't totally resolved it, that Brian, we probably want to refer this to the manager and appropriate staff to further review. But I appreciate your coming down here tonight, and we have another speaker.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Jones. I live at 1603 Pioneer Road, and I'm the Pioneer Park neighborhood president. I would just echo what Jim said. All of our neighborhoods are so pleased with the whole county complex and the people that it's bringing in from all over the state. We just continually hear about the traffic problems. We know that with the budget problems, that's a challenge in itself, but we're just hoping that there's something that we can find, some way we can find to excuse me, to alleviate some of the traffic jam. It's also a very heavily populated area, and a lot of our people actually use Southeast 22nd and Hartford to travel back and forth to work, so they're even running into problems when we get into, different tournament times. So would just appreciate some help with that.
Thank you.
Can I have Don address it if he wants to?
Don?
It's almost as if it's too successful. Not that we could ever be too successful. Lots of good things happening, but lots of traffic.
Sure. Mayor, Cownie, and Council Don Tripp, again, Park and Recreation Director. You may have a specific question for me, Councilmember, but just to summarize, between the two complexes at the corner of Southeast 22nd and Hartford, there are about 165 to 170,000 visitors a year. The county soccer park is at about 125,000, and the baseball park on the north side there is about 45,000. Those numbers in and of themselves don't tell the full story because most of them come and leave at the same time. And there is a bit of an issue there at the corner of Southeast 14th and Hartford. We have worked with the city's engineering department, our traffic engineer, and they adjust the timing of the lights there at that intersection. And I know they've done some monitoring and may even have some traffic counts that you're requesting here. But it is certainly an issue. It has been since we opened. It's exacerbated as the use gets even greater. 2013 we'll have a regional championship in again, which has been a very, very large event, 220 teams from throughout the country. And so I'd suggest that we look at this just as soon as possible and try to get a report back to you.
Thanks, Don. I don't really have any specific questions, just a question from the city manager to refer to you, Parks and Rec, and engineering and traffic to see if there's a way we can address this. So the motion will be referred to the city manager with hopefully we can get some result in the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Meyer, council members, we'll get right on it. I understand the issue, and I think there are hopefully some solutions to this that will improve the situation, and we will report back to you hopefully in that 2-week time frame.
Thanks. That's my motion.
Thanks, Don.
7 yes.
Item 42 is a request from Save the Capitol Square Post Office Coalition to speak regarding the closing of the Capitol Square Post Office.
Mayor, County, members of the City Council. Mary McGee, 201 Locust in Des Moines. Some of you may know me as the chair of the Access Advisory Board of the city, and I want the record to clearly reflect that I am not here in that capacity. I am here in the capacity of a private citizen and a person who lives and works downtown and a member of the National Federation of the Blind of Iowa. I had to put something on the form when I asked for our group to speak tonight, so I put this thing about a coalition. But I don't want you to think about a coalition. I want you to think of junior high science and a symbiosis. If you remember, a symbiosis is when organisms in an environment are mutually beneficial to each other and mutually dependent on each other. That is the situation that we in the National Federation of the Blind of Iowa have with all the residents and workers downtown. I want to approach this as somebody who has lived in downtown Des Moines for over 30 years. I've practiced law in downtown Des Moines for over 20 years. And I use that post office 3 times a week. If you know anything about lawyering, you know that there's a lot of mail goes out. File and serve, send notice of this, send a letter to that. So I'm in that post office a lot. And I have never been in there, but there's somebody in there. Sometimes there's a long line. Sometimes when I've been in a hurry, I have left and returned later in the day when it's not so busy and the line isn't quite so long. So I can testify that the idea that this post office is not economically feasible to continue to operate, that idea is just preposterous to me. I can tell you I have never seen an idle post office over there. Now, I don't know if notice was put out about it or not, but I found out about the closure the night they had something on the news about the post office at Park Fair closing. That's when I found out that Capitol Square had kind of been lumped in with Park Fair, and they were talking about it. I think that as a blind person, particularly, this is going to negatively impact my little law office. I operate out of my home. Give me a computer and a telephone, and I can do just about anything. But I can't drive. Now, it's going to negatively impact me because it's going to force me to charge clients more. As it is, 44 cents, I walk over to the post office, mail the thing, 44 cents or whatever the exact postage is all I charge. I don't charge for time. I don't charge for transportation. I don't charge for any ancillary stuff. But if I have to start taking a DART bus to Ingersoll, to Dawes to use the post office, or to the main post office on 2nd and University, we're talking at least 15 minutes, at most half an hour, maybe even longer. If I have to pay a driver to take me to a post office, we're talking at least 15 minutes plus what I pay the private driver. I am going to be forced to bill that on to my clients. What is this going to do? It's going to make me less competitive in a market where people are cutting costs down to the bare minimum anyway because the economy is what it is. If I have to take a bus or hire a driver to go to a different post office, if I want a Pepsi, I'll get it at Dawes. If I want index cards, I'll get them at Walgreens out there on Ingersoll. If I want coffee, I'll go to Caribou. I will not do my business at Brugger's Bagel Bakery, Walgreens downtown, or Frederick's Coffee Kiosk up there on the sidewalk, the skywalk. I will do all the errands and maybe the little impulsive things that I want to do while I'm out using another post office. So what's going to happen? Downtown businesses will suffer. I also will conclude by saying that visitors to Des Moines will have lost an amenity. And I want to thank Councilmember Hensley and all of you who have been working on this. I want to thank you for your past support and thank you in advance for your future support of keeping this post office at Capitol Square. It is important to all of us. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, Mayor, Cownie, council members. My name is Peggy Chong, and I am also a member of the National Federation of the Blind. I have a P.O. box at this post office for the Friends of the Iowa Library for the Blind, as it's convenient for all of us to merge and get the mail there. As a post office box holder there, I'm told by the post office that I can't be notified till after November 26th, where my post office box might be if I renew by the 30th of November. And what I'm here today to ask the City Council is to once again send a letter to postal officials, of which I happen to have a few more addresses that the post office says are people who are decision makers and can change their mind and keep this post office open and not close it December 26th. But to also ask for your support for a Save the Post Office rally that we will be having on November 21st. That's a Monday from 11:30 to 1, and it'll be a Save the Post Office rally showing our support, not picketing of the post office or anything, but showing our support and how important it is for us to stay downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Okay, yeah, you're fine.
Good afternoon, City Council and other members of the audience. My name is April Enderton, and I am here as the president of the Des Moines chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Iowa. I am concerned that the closing of the Capitol Square Post Office in downtown Des Moines would negatively affect a lot of our chapter members who live in that area. As you've already heard, many of our chapter members either have a post office box downtown or have businesses downtown that would be severely and negatively affected by the closing of this post office. So I am urging reconsideration or whatever can be done to keep this post office open, because independence for us is a very crucial issue, and if we don't have a post office in our neighborhood that people can walk to conduct their postal business, that creates a barrier for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris? You're perfect.
City Council, members of the audience, my name is Michael Glenn. I am an Army veteran, and when I was stationed overseas during a TDY session, which is temporary duty, I was assigned to our post office. Our post office was located across the street from the barracks where my unit was at, and at the afternoon formation we would see the members of the post office unit over outside just kind of hanging out waiting for the truck, and naturally we would give them a little bit of guff about not having anything to do. During that TDY, temporary duty, when they asked for extra help during the holiday season, found out firsthand the post office humps. Truck would come in. We're not talking just a truck. We're talking a semi full of mail, letters, packages to members of the armed services, whoever was on that post. Each and every day, every single letter, package, parcel that came off of those semi-trucks, and I am talking semi-truck trailers, was delivered to each and every unit on post. Every parcel, package, and letter that came from those units went out. There was nothing at the end of the day that was ever left. The post office works their butts off. Whether it's going to George Jefferson at the top, or excuse me, George Jetson in outer space, whether it's going to Fred Sanford in the junkyard, whether it's going to Fred Flintstone in the quarry, if it's in a legitimate United States address, the post office is going to deliver. And I know these are fictitious people, but my point is this: the post office delivers the mail. But it's not just about delivery, it's also about service. I live in the Highland Park area, and my post office was closed. And when I say mine, I'm talking about the Park Fair. Because when I would go up there to mail my letters, I would ask Connie behind the desk, is this legible? I can't see a thing. And it's very reassuring to know that there was somebody there who would look at my letter and say, yeah, it's good, and would send it out. So, taking into consideration, the post office will go to every known address in the United States of America. Is FedEx going to do that? No, because it may not be profitable. Is Brown going to do that? No, because it may not be profitable. The United States Post Office does, and they do it with a smile. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mayor Cownie, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to speak before you. I'm Michael Barber, President of the National Federation of the Blind of Iowa, the largest and most active consumer organization of blind and sighted men and women across the state. Although we serve people across the state of Iowa, we do try to advocate wherever we can, wherever it's needed. We try to educate the public. And one of the areas that we need to advocate in is the area of losing a post office. There are several people who are blind who live in the downtown area. It's not just blind people. You, the City Council, have done an admirable job of bringing to the downtown area businesses and residents who are now happy to live here. And now, lo and behold, the post office wants to withdraw a convenience from these people and cause them to have to go out of the downtown area to do their postal business. I work 2-3 blocks from the post office, and there are times when it's very convenient for me to whiz down to the post office, buy my stamps, send my letters if I have to do any special mailing and that sort of thing. That convenience will no longer be a part of my life because the post office has decided that this post office they've decided needs to close. For whatever reason, I've heard that this post office is not losing money. So I can't imagine for the life of me why they want to take this out of the downtown area. Now, if a blind person wants to go to a post office nearby, they can take a bus, get off at 6th and University, and walk the 4 blocks over to the post office there at 2nd University. Well, on a nice day, that's not bad. It's good. But you talk about a day when there's lots of ice, snow, and the sidewalks aren't always shoveled properly, that's difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. So what I'm asking is that you, the City Council, and you, Your Honor, that you folks will do what you can to continue to work with postal officials to see if there's not some way to circumvent closing this post office and stop this from happening. If you have to camp on their doorstep, great. We'll bring our sleeping bags and tents along and we'll help you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity for all of us to speak.
Thank you, Michael.
My name is Kelly Chambers, and I'm a member of the National Federation for the Blind. And I would just like to say, as someone who can see, I don't understand what the blind people are going through. But I do understand that the ones that do work and live downtown need this post office.
All right. Thank you all very much. And I appreciate your peaceful demonstration to register your grievances here, and we'll see if we can't do it. Do you, Mary, have a closing statement?
I will conclude by saying that you each have a letter that I wrote to this Karen Lenane. If you want to put it in the record, that's fine. It's self-explanatory. I will go on record as saying that I'm displeased about this. I also have these little pieces of paper for each of you that have postal officials' addresses on them. One of them is Karen Lenane. So whatever kind of leaning you want to do, those are, as we understand it, the people that are supposed to be able to do something about this.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your coming down.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to refer this back to the city manager's office. And I know that we've already had communication with our senators, and but obviously it's significant for the city, particularly the downtown area, because if you look at the size of the downtown area, and if we can be of assistance in working with the National Federation of the Blind as they're taking the lead on this, I'd like to see us provide what assistance we can from the city's perspective.
Okay. I'll do that. Yep.
Thank you.
If you think there's an opportunity, include Park Fair in that closing aspect.
And I'll move to receive and file a copy of the letter that Mary McGee was referring to that was sent to Karen.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we have a motion then to, do we want to write a letter or a series of letters? What should we do?
I would like to see us write follow-up letters and then provide what support would be appropriate from the city perspective, working with the National Federation on continuing to pursue this for both the Capitol Square and for Park Fair.
Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming down. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
All right. It is 5:15, and that takes us now to the hearings. Item 43, our first hearing item is on the conveyance of city-owned property to the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority, WRA, and for the WRA New Main Outfall Sewer Phase 17, segments 3 and 4 project for $88,700, Council Communication number 11-681. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
Seven yes.
Item 44, in the conveyance of the Des Moines building at 405 6th Avenue and 513 Locust Street to the Des Moines Apartments LP, $150,000. Council Communication number 11-687. A is the first consideration of the ordinance vacating the portions of 6th Avenue right-of-way in the east-west alley right-of-way adjoining the Des Moines building. And B, the final consideration of the ordinance above the waivers requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes. Is there anybody in the audience to speak on this item?
I'll move 44A and B.
Seven yes.
Item 45, on items regarding the property at 4805 Observatory Road. Russell Parks is the owner. A is to amend the Des Moines 2020 Community Character Plan to revise the future land use designation from low-density residential to parks open space to low-medium-density residential. And B, the hearing on the rezoning of the property from R180, one-family residential, to limited R3, multiple family residential, to allow for the infill development of no more than 6 units with 3 separate single-family semi-detached dwellings, all contained within a commonly owned parcel with access from Observatory Road, subject to conditions. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Item 45. Yes, sir.
I'm Russell Parks of 1509 Pleasant View Drive. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this project's been in the works for quite some time, so I think most of you are familiar with it, but I'll just say that I view this as an opportunity to give 6 more families the opportunity to live in the great Waveland Park neighborhood. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Right. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Parks? I don't see any at the moment, but if there's any questions, I'm sure you'll be available through the duration of this hearing. Thank you.
My name is Will Rogers. I live at 1328 43rd Street, and I'm also a member of the Waveland Park Neighborhood Association and a board member as well. And I just came tonight to, again, encourage the City Council to support this project. It's a great opportunity to add some really nice quality housing to our neighborhood. It's also a great win-win, I think, for the city in terms of the bird sanctuary, gaining some additional property as well that'll be dedicated to that. I understand that some of the sale of the property might also be used to help to further improve our parks in terms of the Waveland Golf Course, offsetting that with the bird sanctuary. And then also just would like to say that this is also an area that's really kind of undergrown with or overgrown with some brush. I think David Houston is actually going to show some pictures of that here in just a moment. But it's also an area that has had some nuisances with people that are dumping down in that area, as well as people that are unfortunately homeless that may be squatting in that area as well. So I just, again, want to encourage the council to move forward with the rezoning and moving forward with the Russ Parks project. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
My name is David Houston. I live at 4321 University Avenue, Apartment 2, and I've been involved with the Waveland Park Association for a while, as Russ has been working with the permutations of this. I would like to look at one overhead picture here, and I know you're talking about the specific item, or considering the specific items that Mr. Parks is rezoned here, but what I've talked about before is that right now, the bird sanctuary, it's impossible to walk around it. And as you look at this, for an overview, kind of like the ecosystem of it, includes a pretty heavily wooded area around here. And I had spoke before with my PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff, pushing for a perimeter trail around that. When this came before Plan and Zoning, there was a staff recommendation, which may or may not have been communicated to you. It was not directed to you, but kind of shows that they were listening to what was going on, saying that they were encouraging staff of Park and Rec and other appropriate staff to consider the feasibility of public access to Cummins Woods through city property. This is a very important area. I've always looked forward to Mr. Park's development as being something that also gives us an opportunity to perhaps develop or give some access to the bird sanctuary. I was a little bit concerned. There was a Waveland Park meeting last night, or excuse me, earlier this week that was at the golf course, and it was mentioned that they'd been doing a bunch of brush cutting and everything. And this is actually an area which would be within that canopy and in the bird sanctuary area. And it's kind of a clear-cut area, and I think most conservationists would look at this as loss of habitat for birds. They don't just nest up in the trees. They weren't all just invasive species. When Andrew, our Boy Scout, did his invasive species removal, we worked on that. But you can look at this, there are a lot of oak things that are cut down, and I'm just encouraging the city to encourage Park and Rec to develop this area and protect it, because I think that clear cutting and going through there is not a good thing to do for a bird sanctuary. So anyway, thank you for your consideration of this area, and I also support Mr. Park's development.
David, thank you.
Mayor, County, and members of City Council. My name is Christine Pardy. I'm here representing the Waveland Park Neighborhood Association. The Neighborhood Association is in support of this development, and we hope that you also support this continuance of moving forward. Just to clarify a comment that David Houston made in reference to Kent Sovereign, that was a motion that was made at the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting a few weeks ago, and so we hope that that motion actually made it to council. I believe that staff could probably clarify what that process was. It was a process that was separate from the hearing, and so again, just requesting your support to let this project move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Let's go ahead and close the hearing. Any discussion by council members or any motions?
I'll go ahead and make a motion. Do you want to answer your questions first?
Go ahead if you want to make one.
I'm going to go ahead and move item 45A and B, but also ask to make sure that the recommendation from P&Z was included or has been forwarded to the staff.
Okay.
And I guess just before I turn it over to you for your question, I just want to thank Mr. Parks for his stick-to-itiveness and working through the process. I know it's been a long process, and but I also want to thank everybody involved. I think we have a much better project today than we did when we first started out, and addressed a lot of the issues. So thank you very much for working through that.
My question, I actually have two. One is that the staff made a recommendation that included quality of building products, and the P&Z changed that motion and that set of staff recommendations. I guess I didn't notice that until I was reviewing the documents here as we're preparing to vote. Can somebody just tell me why that is? You know what I'm talking about?
believe that Mr. Parks at the public hearing had requested some modifications.
Could you give us your name and position,
Michael Ludwig,
please?
Planning Administrator for the City of Des Moines. As I stated, I believe that Mr. Parks had requested a change to a few of those conditions at the commission meeting, and after their hearing, they voted on whether to take the staff recommendation or modify that slightly. The staff respects the Planning Commission's right to make that recommendation. So.
Is there any requirements, if there are, I missed them, that speak to the quality of building materials and so forth that are going to be required?
Yeah. In your packet, I'm not sure if you received the signed copy that Mr. Parks had submitted, but prior to the hearing, we have to have all conditions accepted in writing by the applicant for any kind of conditional zoning. And basically, there were 6 conditions that the Planning Commission placed on the property or recommended being placed. First was that there be a maximum of 6 residential units developed. Secondly, that any residential units constructed on the property shall be subject to review by Planning and Zoning Commission. There is a multifamily site plan review required by Planning Commission for the 6 units on the property. They did specify that each dwelling unit shall have a private garage, whether attached or detached, minimum floor area of at least 1,200 square feet, excluding garages and basements, and the roof would have to have architectural type shingles or cedar shakes. There was a requirement for the kind of what we call our tree survey, or identification of trees on the site by species, size, and whether or not they're to be removed or retained, and then mitigation provided. Fourth condition was that they have proper soil erosion controls during any development or grading operations. Fifth one, which was one that was added by the Planning Commission, was that they be what's referred to as dark sky compliant with their lighting plan because of the observatory, that's the Drake Observatory. And then finally, review and approval of the final building elevations as part of the site plan review. So they granted some flexibility on just mandating materials at this point, recognizing they were going to get the opportunity to review the multifamily site plan review.
Okay. I do think some of those materials are important. We want it to be a multi-generational building over there and to be high quality for a long time if it happens. So I'll trust that P&Z and staff will take a hard look at that when it comes back through the site plan review process.
I'll note that for the file.
And the second question that I had, and I actually was looking at these conditions because I've voiced this a couple of times about my concern over staging, use of equipment, impact on the neighborhood over there, and to a lesser degree, but an important degree, impact on the tennis courts over there. I think somebody from our Parks Department would probably tell us it's one of the most used city facilities in town. And I hope between now and the second reading, Rick, you can confirm with us the plan. I know that you've had, or staff has had conversations about how that would happen and what expectations are there, but it's not in any of the documentation given to council. And I wouldn't vote for final approval till I saw that. I want those neighbors to know that we're being real proactive at the front end and not waiting for them to complain a year from now.
Do it. Any other comments? Halley, Skip, Bob? Good.
Seven yes.
Ms. Hensley, you meant to include C, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, 46, items regarding property at 3422 57th Street. Christopher Jen's owner. A is to amend the Des Moines 2020 Community Character Land Use Plan to revise the future land use designation from low-density residential to low-medium-density residential. B is a hearing on the rezoning the property from R160 one-family low-density residential to limited R2 1 and 2 family residential to allow for infill development of 2 family dwellings subject to conditions. And C is the first consideration of this ordinance. Is there anybody in the audience to speak on this item? Are you going to present again, sir?
Mayor, County, members of the council, Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator for the City of Des Moines. In your packet, once again, there was a letter of zoning acceptance that was signed by the applicant and submitted. That letter of zoning acceptance did include some of those design standards that Councilmember Coleman had referred to previously that would be applicable to this project. I will note that in the signed copy, the applicant has requested one modification to what the Planning Commission had recommended, and that is that the minimum size of a dwelling unit on the property be 850 square feet instead of 1,000 square feet. But all other conditions that were recommended were agreed to. I'm available if you have questions.
And just maybe as a little background on the square footage decrease, they added some other stuff. They added a garage, and they also increased their square footage from, I think they originally wanted, Mike, like 760, 768, something like that. And so they went up and kind of, they increased also some of the quality of their building materials from what they had wanted. So we thought that to be a reasonable compromise.
Any other comments? Anybody in the audience? Hearing none.
I will move item 46A, B, and C.
Seven yes.
Item 47, on a request from Jose Villarreal to rezone 2013 Clark Street from CO Commercial Residential to R160 one-family low-density residential to allow for financing of existing single-family dwelling. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes. Is there anybody here to speak on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion. 2013 Clark.
Seven yes.
Case item 48, on a request from Mayorga and Mayorga Partners to rezone 1800 Southeast 14th Street from C2 General Retail and Highway-Oriented Commercial with a VDL, a Vehicle Display Lot overlay, to remove the overlay and rezone to limited C2 General Highway Retail and Highway-Oriented Commercial to allow for the expansion of the existing vehicle display lot adjoining on the south, subject to conditions. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above. B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the Community Development Director and requires 6 votes. Anybody here to speak on this item 48? Seeing none.
I do have some comments on this. Normally, with this vehicle display lot overlay, I would never allow anything to be expanded like this for a used car lot on Southeast 14th Street. However, this is a situation where he's going to be taking, I don't know if you're familiar with this, I think it's a Star gas station that's on the west side of Southeast 14th Street, just on the north end of Aztec Motors. And so he's going to buy that property, tear down the dilapidated gas station and upgrade his facility, as well as coming into compliance with our current code. So this is a good deal all around, and but I don't want people to think that we're giving up on the overlay, because this is a vast improvement as to what's there now. So I will move 48 A and B unless Mr. Meyer wants to speak.
Item's been moved. Mr. Coleman.
7 yes.
Item 49 is on a request from Arnold DeWitt to rezone property in the vicinity of 1241 East 38th Street from R160 one-family low-density residential to limited C2 general retail and highway-oriented commercial, and to continue to November 21st, 2011 at 5 o'clock. So this is a motion actually to continue. Anyone here to speak? Seeing none.
Seeing none, I will move 49 for the continuance.
7 yes.
Item 50 is a request from Hugh Nguyen to rezone 1435 University Avenue from R3 multifamily residential to limited C1 neighborhood retail commercial to allow for retail development and to continue to December 19th at 5 p.m. So again, this is a motion to continue. Is anyone here to speak on this? Seeing none. 1435 University.
Seven yes.
51 on the proposed third 2012 year action plan of the 2010-2014 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD Consolidated Plan, Council Communication number 11-679. Anyone here in the audience to speak on this item? We spoke about HUD and consolidated plans and CDBG and all the other funding programs that comes through HUD earlier this morning at our workshop. I hope that those that are listening to this understand the importance of these programs, and hopefully your letters of support we can send to all those in Washington, because there are certain discussions going on that would zero out an awful lot of these programs. I think a lot of these programs help support a lot of the good things that have been happening in our neighborhoods for a number of years, and in addition to our support from your city council, we may need to have your support as citizens to reach out to those elected in Washington and let them know the importance of these programs. We have a motion on item 51.
Mayor, I have a question on this one.
You got it.
On the last page of the blue letter at the very top, it indicates that we've been spending $50,000 on parks cleanup of city property. Now it's going to be zeroed out. What funding are we going to be using to accomplish these tasks in the future?
Mr. Moore, give us just one moment. We're checking it out.
Mr. Moore, would you repeat your question?
We're currently funding parks cleanup of city property at $50,000. We're proposing to zero it out in the future, and I was just wondering what funds we're going to use to accomplish those tasks.
Al McKinley, Deputy City Manager. We have not yet identified long-term funding for that purpose at this time.
We identified any short-term funding?
Well, no, we have not either. But we will review what available funding sources we can use for that, and as soon as we can identify that, we'll be coming back to council.
So we do intend to continue cleaning up city property?
There are opportunities for us to do that. We have used funding from property maintenance funds, and if we're able to then use the system to recover those funds through liens against properties, we'll continue to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Coleman.
7 yes.
Item 52 on the 2011 sewer repair contract 2, resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as TK Concrete, Inc., Tony J. Vermeer, President, $157,488. Council Communication number 11-685. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Is there anybody in the audience to speak on this item? Seeing none.
I'll move 52, 52A.
Seven yes.
Item 53 on the 2012 sewer lining program, the resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designating the lowest responsible bidder as SAK Construction LLC, Boyd Hertz, Vice President, $2,739,276.50. Council Communication number 11-684. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion, please?
I'll move 53, 53A.
Seven yes.
All right, let's note that the hearings end at 5:40. Takes us now to approving item 54, which is preliminary terms of agreement with the Waterfront Lodging, Inc. for the construction of a 129-room hotel, a 245-space parking structure, and a 120-room hotel, all to be located in the 100 block of 2nd and Water Streets. A is the Council Communication number 11-696. Actually, that's the communication. A is setting the date of hearing on the vacation and conveyance of a small segment of remaining public alley right-of-way located in the block bound by Vine, Water, Margaret, and Southwest 2nd Streets to Waterfront Lodging, Inc., and that will happen on 11/21 of 11. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, William Willis, 317 6th Avenue, Suite 300, along with Dan Manning, who are appearing on behalf of Waterfront. This is a project that we worked with the staff on, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and it was before the council back on October 10th. Since that time, Mr. Ravi, who's here with me this evening, and myself and Mr. Manning have worked, like I say, with the city staff, economic development, as to a way to develop this block on the west side of the river, east of 2nd, south of Vine, and east of 2nd, south of Vine, and north of Market. The project is proposed to be, and this is an elevation looking from the river to the west for a proposed Hampton hotel. It's a better view of the elevation of the first hotel, which is part of the project, and it's identical to the elevation I think the council may have seen in the past. The geography of the site is more, this would be the Water Street, this would be Vine and the railroad, and this would be Market and 2nd. The hotel that you saw just a moment ago, the elevation being here, would be located on what I call the south and east corner. It's about 1/3 of the site. There, which you have not seen but has been part of the discussions with the city staff, is a multi-story standalone structured parking facility that would be built with the first phase, or the first building. This would be built. The third part of that entire block would be a second hotel, which is indicated to be, it's 120, but it may be 110 to 120 units. It's designed to be very similar to the first hotel. The project we're excited about, Mr. Patel, Ravi Patel, is here this evening, and he can speak to the specifics. Again, this has been a project that started out with the typical, what I call the typical Hampton Inn, which would be a smaller hotel, same orientation on the block with surface parking. Mr. Mayor, you remember, and I think some of the other council members, when we came to bring this project forward, the structured parking was something that was very, very much desired as far as that area to maximize the use of the site. And the orientation of the structured parking, which I mentioned, will be part of the first phase. Frankly, it's about twice the size of what Mr. Patel needs on the first building. It's 249 or thereabouts, just short of 250 parking spaces. We think it's a good orientation because Vine Street and the railroad tracks, of course, are here and would be an area that would be the structured parking, of course, would be north of the existing hotel. We've reviewed the staff recommendation, the blue letter. There are a lot of questions and concerns that we've hopefully addressed. Mr. Patel is here. I'd sure welcome him to make some comments if you have any questions of me presently or later, but I'd like to defer, if I could, to Mr. Ravi Patel, who would be the owner and developer of this site.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ravi.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having me here yet again. My name is Ravi Patel. I am president of Waterfront Lodging Incorporated. We are really excited to have reached preliminary terms of agreement with the city manager. We've been working on this project for a very long time, almost a little over 2 years with Mr. Levy and the city here, and are excited to have reached a conclusion to build 2 hotels here, a parking structure. Bill has done a great job of kind of explaining what we've been doing, what we've done, and if you all have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions at the moment, Council?
Just one question. You came back, we didn't realize a parking garage, that you were going to come back and propose that, which I'm very happy about, so I appreciate that.
I think a lot of people were, so no, we're excited we reached a conclusion on it.
Capacity is way more than what you need for the
Correct.
first hotel, so what are your plans? Do you anticipate making it available for other entities in the Court Avenue? Or?
Sure. I think there'll be a lot of good that'll come out of us building that structure with 200, just slightly under 250 stalls. A few of the things, I mean, obviously that incentivizes us to try to break ground as quick as we can on the second hotel, which it looks like will be a great benefit to the community, the city, the tax base, everything. So we're going to try to push to do that sooner than what I think the 5 years that we're allowed. Also, but in the meantime, which it'll be there for some time before that second hotel breaks ground, we will, to kind of help, I guess, quote unquote, support that structure, we'll have it probably open to the community is what we're thinking.
And the second hotel that you're talking about, do you anticipate that being a long stay hotel? Will it be? Do you have any other ideas?
Sure. The only companies we develop with or do new construction with are Hilton, Marriott, and Intercontinental, so it will be one of those 3 flags. If we're not 100% on which flag it will be just yet, but more than likely it will be an upscale extended stay hotel.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Do you intend on the parking garage to be similar in appearance to the hotel?
I do not have my architectural renderings on the garage yet, as this was just done fairly recently. But yes, I would imagine it will look fairly similar to both hotels. Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's open it up for additional discussion. Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Draper. I live at 100 Water Street, 404, so I'm right here across the street. I'm a little bit groggy. I have a 6-month-old son and a 3-year-old son who wake up early, so daylight savings time is not kind to us on Monday morning.
Or even Monday evening, right?
Yeah, really. Well, that's why I'm not here. That's why I'm not at home. I just want to say that first off, I followed this for a while. Living in Water Street, I've lived at this corner for 6 years, raised the family there. I own a store just 4 blocks from here, so I spent a lot of time downtown. I wasn't too thrilled about the idea of a hotel coming in for the reason that on this side and on this side, you have 2 of the most successful residential projects downtown. You have Brown Camp Lofts and Water Street. Water Street is only 3 of them can be rented at a time, so it's entirely the people who own them live there. Water Street is a non-through street. You can't make a left off of MLK. You can't even go past Court Avenue right now. But you can't go past Walnut Street in the future. If you guys are looking to build like a 24/7 real residential environment, every single successful downtown, whether it's big cities, smaller cities, will have a small residential pocket. So it'll have a quieter street where everything on that street is residential. Water Street is really the only opportunity you've got to take a block and make 3 blocks of owner-occupied, family-friendly land, not sticking in a hotel, especially Hampton Inn. No offense to Hampton Inn. I've seen several by the interstate, and they look nice. My concern primarily is that this is private land. There's a private company. They can sell it if they want to. What I really don't like is when they meet the zoning code with a standard Hampton Inn with a surface parking lot, and there's nothing the city can do about it. So the city's solution is to actually give them money to change the plans a little bit. I don't support the city throwing away over $1 million on a parking lot across from $250,000 to $50,000 to $300,000 condos on one end. I think if you look at the iconic picture of the city from the southeast side of the river that looks back, having a red neon Hampton Inn and Suite sign doesn't exactly hit me as a touch of class. Having the city give money to put that sign there says kind of touch of poor city planning. I was going to use blind city planning, and then I saw everybody here, so I decided to change that while I was sitting down. And also, I don't know for Robbie and the developers if you've heard the term like a freight train, but living next to a freight train sounds like living next to a freight train. It takes weeks of getting used to 100-plus cars, trains that come through an average of 3 times a night between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Having rock children to sleep in the middle of the night, I keep close track of Iowa Interstate and Union Pacific trains. And so while it takes weeks of getting used to, I can only imagine what your guys' Yelp reviews would look like. It would sound like the screenplay from My Cousin Vinny. So I would encourage the city, if Hampton Inn wants to purchase the lot from the Leebys and build what they want to build there, as long as it meets the zoning code, that's fine with me. But I don't think this is the type of project you guys should be dumping city money into. Thank you.
Any comments or questions to our speaker, Mr. Draper?
I've got a question, Mike. I know you're not here representing all the tenants there, but have you heard comments from any other tenants?
The only comments I've heard are comments of concern about it, mainly for traffic on Water Street. If you develop the Riverwalk, you have to get to it by crossing Water Street. If you want people to use the Riverwalk, they're going to have to walk across the road. And so more traffic, more cars, and more people isn't exactly necessary. I mean, I'm not against downtown events. I live downtown. I don't complain about the noise. I'm not complaining about my view being interrupted. I'm just saying from a city development standpoint, this is not the way that you would want to develop the only chance for a residential section downtown.
Anything else? Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
I would note, after listening to Mr. Draper, that the orientation that the council saw in October, to go back to your question, Mr. Moore, is that we had a hotel, a second hotel, and actually the structured parking being over here on Second. We felt that the structured parking honestly would provide the buffer for the railroad and also be a better orientation as far as the putting that on the site. So those have, not to say they've been flipped, but there is a different orientation than the council would have seen back in October. So we're quite proud of this project, and we certainly would urge your approval. Welcome questions.
Any questions, Council? All right. Thank you. Let's open it for our discussion or a motion.
I'll go ahead and just make a couple of comments and then make a motion, but I think there are probably other people because we've, the Economic Development Committee, as we all know, has spent a great deal of time working on this project, trying to address concerns that have been expressed based upon the original plans that came before the city. And as we know, the zoning down there would allow the project to have moved forward without really needing to have any assistance from the city. One of the concerns that was expressed was a suburban type of parking lot, and as indicated earlier, I was pleasantly surprised when you came back with the garage concept, and I think it does several things. In the short term, I think it does help us address some parking issues that we continue to have. It also, as Mr. Lillis indicated, acts as a buffer, and I think the economic impact and the final design that we're achieving as a result of all of this is very good. So I appreciate your ability and willingness to listen to the comments that were made as we went through this process with the economic development. So based upon that, I don't know, Chris, did you want to make?
I do. Just quickly, I think all of us have a really clear understanding of how TIF works and how we've tried to structure economic development deals. And I'll repeat to you all and the people in the audience how important this aspect of this proposal is. I happened to run into Mr. Lillis in the Skywalks middle of last week, and I told him, in this environment, this project cannot cost the city anything. We can't lose any money on it. Whatever incentives that need to be asked of the city have to come out of the taxes that will be paid by the development once it happens. So the city has no risk if the development doesn't go forward. We don't have anything in it. And if it goes forward, they get a rebate, in essence, of some of the taxes that they've paid for a period of time. And I really appreciate the developer and his team understanding the financial situation that the city's in. We need development. If we don't have new development, the increased cost of government is just going to be split by all of us, and our taxes are going to go up, and we're going to need more money from everybody that's here. If we can make the pie bigger through economic development, expanding our tax base, it long-term saves our current taxpayers money. So on this deal, like many of the other downtown economic development deals, we don't have to spend any money from any current taxpayer. All the incentives that they're going to get to build a parking garage in downtown and a high-quality hotel, kind of an urban design that I think is going to be really pretty cool, all of it comes out of money that they're paying the city to begin with in taxes and rebated back. And I compliment our management team here, Mr. Clark, the attorneys, Mr. Lester, and the finance team and our economic development team for being real creative in how we can draw a hard line on that so that we aren't costing our existing taxpayers any money to make this happen. And we got it done. And I think that's a good sign that the developer has as much confidence as we do in the future of the city. They're risking it all. We're going to help them and use some of the taxes that they pay into the city to rebate back so that they can get it done in a high-quality way.
I'll make the motion to move 55A. Wait a minute, no, 54. 54A. Sorry. I don't want to move that one.
Yeah. 6 yes, 1 no.
Mayor, I'd like to point out on this that it wasn't all that long ago that we were touting the fact we had $1 billion worth of construction going on, which is not happening due to the economic environment. But, you know, we need to keep our labor people working. Ravi had said at the last meeting that they would do what they could to hire local, that they're going to bring in a few people from outside, but they'll try and hire local. I think that just from an economic standpoint, from some of our citizens in this city, this is very important.
All right. Thank you. We have set the date of hearing also on the vacation conveyance of that segment of the remaining alley for the 21st of November. Item 55 is our next item, which is a negotiated settlement agreement between the City of Des Moines and Courtside Entertainment, Inc., 1014 East 14th Street. A is a consideration of a Class C liquor license renewal for Courtside Entertainment, Inc., May 6, 2011 to May 6, 2012. I think that our legal staff and Des Moines PD and everybody else has worked very hard on this. I would ask our city attorney to make a couple of comments on the settlement that they have discussed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do want to acknowledge the hard work of Doug Phillip and my staff and of the chief and the other executive members of the police department in working with the owners of Courtside and trying to put a settlement agreement together that would maximize city council control as related to this establishment and the ongoing problems and issues that have been developed there. As we've had in previous discussion at this table and as we are currently working at council's direction, there's a limited amount of control and action that this council is able to take with respect to liquor licenses and establishments. The maximum amount of control is vested in the state. That is by state statute. That's also by court decision, lots of court decisions. So what we've presented to you this evening is what we think is the best option that's available for the council given the circumstances and the current state of the law. In particular, at the suggestion of the chief and the police department, a number of the items in there relate to and direct the owners and the establishment to move from what would give the appearance of operating more as a bar, more to a restaurant. With respect to the licensing on 55A, council will recall that the reason the matter was slowed at that point in time in terms of renewal was to determine whether or not the establishment was actually in compliance with the 50% requirement for a restaurant. It has now produced evidence satisfactory to CD that it is in fact operating as a restaurant. Part of the settlement agreement would require them to continue to operate as a restaurant. Other items of note in particular are that a number of items in the settlement agreement itself are directed at maximizing this council's control. There are 11 or 12 items in paragraph 5, which is what we're terming as the management portion of the settlement agreement. In those items, if the owners are unsuccessful in maintaining their compliance with these management items, and that includes hiring additional security personnel, making structural changes to the outside of the building in terms of lighting, in terms of surveillance cameras. They've decreased their hours of operation, removing pool table and DJs, which would be more akin to something you would expect in a bar rather than a family restaurant, as well as the trespass law provision that would allow the police department to enforce the trespass law. There are a number of items in there that if the owners and operators are unsuccessful in maintaining compliance with those items, this council will have the authority to reimpose the suspension that's currently in place in front of the ABD of the state of Iowa, and it would then be incumbent on the owners to ask for an appeal as opposed to the normal process where the council has to make that request of the ABD in an attempt to suspend as relates to these particular items. I understand there's been a significant amount of public concern. There's been a significant amount of concern by this council given the current state of the law, this is what your legal department staff believes is the best option available.
Okay. Any questions that anybody has, and we'll open it up, see if anybody in the audience has any questions, comments. Seeing none from the council, let's open it up and see if anybody in the audience has any comments. Mr. Parrish? No?
Mr. Mayor and City Council, only if you have some specific questions. Otherwise, we have no comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Come forward.
You guys, I know I've been here before about liquor license and everything. My name's Mike Brandel. I live at 443 59th Street. Noticing that we've had a bit of an issue here in this state. In our city right now, the licensing right now does not make the owners responsible for the killings or beatings of their clients or the security staff of their clients. We've noticed with Smithson that he hires thugs off the street, not police officers. We've noticed in other bar situations that they don't hire licensed by the state security staff that are trained. Now, we need to start doing that, and I would suggest that before they reopen up as a bar, that they show that their security staff is properly trained by the state and licensed, number one. Two, looking at the Google map of your property, you have a alleyway and a smoking section right there. What's going to stop a person from coming over and popping somebody right there? There's nothing there to stop somebody from doing that. There's no fencing there. There's no way that anybody can stop you from doing that. And there's 20 feet between the road and the smoking section there. So to tell me that the safeguards that you've got in place right now, that was not mentioned in that. And that's where the shooting took place, was out front in the smoking section.
If I can respond, Your Honor.
All right, are you done?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In paragraph 5, you'll notice in paragraph 5B of the settlement agreement, there's a requirement that they hire, in fact, licensed private security personnel from the hours of 7 p.m. to close on Friday and Saturday nights. There's also a requirement in 5C that they hire additional off-duty police officers if necessary for Friday and Saturday nights. In 5F, there's a requirement that they obtain a building permit as soon as possible to construct a privacy fence along the alleyway. I believe that addresses many of the same concerns that Mr. Brandel's indicated that he has with the current agreement.
All right. Anybody else? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up or for a motion from council. Any comments? Bob? Skip?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'd just like to, legal has given us direction here, and I tend to support that, but I just want to make a public statement that you need to understand that public sentiment is not in your favor. I mean, I have gotten more emails and more calls about why would the city negotiate a settlement with you. And I respect the city legal, but if there is just one little thing that happens, I will work with city legal staff to make sure that we permanently revoke the license, because public sentiment is not in favor of us doing this, period.
Okay. Bob?
I think that with the agreement that our attorney's been able to come up with and the cooperation that they've offered to work with, I know the attorney and I have talked about the height of the fence. I think it should be higher than what maybe they had proposed originally, but I know they've cooperated, but I still have a problem with the location of it because it's so close to the school. But that's behind us. I mean, that we agreed to in the prior hearings. So I really compliment them in their efforts, and I realize also that their position on what happened there, it was off of the premises. It was not on their premises. So how it occurred. So I I'm happy with what the attorney and them have agreed to, but I just have never been in favor of where the location of it is.
Based on legal counsel's advice, I would move item 55A. 55A and 55A, excuse me.
Okay. 55A has been moved.
Four yes, 3 no.
All right, that, I believe, moves it forward, and you have been granted a renewal. As you have been properly pointed out, I think, by everybody, that we and the citizens are hopeful that things will calm down and you will have a successful next year or so. We will all hope that that's the case. Item 56 is a submittal of the STP and the STPTE Fund fiscal year 2016 applications to the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, Council Communication number 11-680. Anybody here to speak on that? Mr. Manager, do you want to make a quick comment on it?
Mayor and council members, every year the MPO goes through a process where they ask communities that are members of the MPO to submit recommendations and request for STP dollars. These are federal dollars that flow through the state to the MPO, and the MPO has the job of allocating those dollars among the different communities that comprise MPO. The council's decision tonight is to forward on to the MPO a list of projects for which we're applying for funds. The list is outlined in the blue letter, but the major project that if you approve this, would be asking funding for would be the Southeast Connector. As you know, that's a project we have continued to seek dollars from a whole variety of sources. This would continue to do that. Other projects listed in that are Park Avenue widening, the Graddon Avenue Bridge, the Ewing Park and Easter Lake Circumference Trail, the Waveland Trail, Drake Area Streetscape, and the Ingersoll Avenue Streetscape. All those projects would be submitted as applications. Then it's the MPO's job to look at all the projects that are submitted and award funding for those that they deem appropriate. The funding year is 2016, so we're 4 or 5 years away from these dollars actually being available to us for these projects, but nonetheless, that's the process, and that's our recommendation to you, Mayor and Council.
Right. Any comment? Anybody in the audience? Can we have a motion? Coleman.
Oh.
Mr. Coleman, do you want to move this?
I will move it. We've done pretty well at
Brian did? Brian moved it?
Brian did.
Only because I heard absolute silence, so he can move it if he wants.
Brian can move it.
I'll move it.
Indianola Road has done very well through this process.
Thank you very much.
Southeast Connectors.
So, yeah.
I saw the Ewing Park and Easter Lake Park circumferential trail.
I mean, Southeast Connectors.
You know, even though most of the dollars are going to that ward over there, I think these are projects that we really need for our city to continue.
You can just send it all over there.
I can promise you this, there's no carve-out for libraries in STP.
That's for sure.
Well, there's TE funds over there, so maybe.
7 yes.
All right. I will note before I ask for a motion to adjourn and reconvene that we have nothing to reconvene for on the Board of Health this evening. I know everybody's disappointed that's in the audience. So could we have a motion to adjourn? It's been moved. Before we all say yes, I urge everybody to get out and vote. Tomorrow is an election day, and hope that all of those watching will exercise their opportunity to to vote in our city municipal elections. Thank you all. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Thanks. We are adjourned.